Rent it, lease it, rease it.
Yeah, reset.
Oh, I have to rease it.
reset.
Let's start again. Rent it, lease it, rease it.
Reset.
Uh,
It's an honor. It's an honor for being invited, number one, and being able to share it with your audience.
I really appreciate it. It's funny because we haven't spoken in about 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe since 2007.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
And, you know, we were young, we were in our teens.
Yeah.
And after 15 to 18 years, we had a mutual friend.
Yep.
And we've seen you behind the microphone.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to see how I can get in contact with you because of your inspiring story.
Yeah.
Hence why you're here. I made the phone call and I just said Mustafa. And from you hearing my voice, you said my surname.
Yeah. So you stood out earlier on. When, obviously, this part of the growing up, we played soccer together.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those names that you, throughout your journey in life, sometimes you remember certain people, and some people from character. Some people, whether they're good or bad, but for you, for sure, it's good. So you've left some good memory.
Yeah. And that it's a testament that when you have a friendship, even at a young age, where it's purely a friendship, not out of wanting to benefit
yep.
out of someone, purely out of love and just a friendship itself, that you find 18 years later, just from hearing my voice, and I was shocked, you said, yeah, Mustafa Kraim, how are you? We just picked up from where we left off.
For sure. And it's it's part of, obviously, our characters and who we are, and when you leave a good taste in someone's mouth,
That's right.
it could go years and years, but still, whether it's we need help from a person, whatever, it's there when needed.
That's right. And when we made the call, rent it, lease it, rease it has arrived. I want to know, what is Rease? When I used to think of Rease, I'd associate it with a different brand, but all of a sudden I can't get that tagline out of my head. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, the big slogan, rent it, lease it, rease it. And it was just natural where we started to do our videos earlier on in our startup career, where we were doing a bit of marketing, and we're just like, how do we start? And then while we're doing videos, my background's construction. I'm actually a builder, so I build and develop, and the camera is new to me. So when it was in front of me, I started to move my hands a lot, and while obviously recording, early on before the interviews, just the thing I've done, rent it, lease it, and I just started to move my hand, and it just, that arm swung, and it sort of what do they say, cemented in people's brain, and just rent it, lease it, rease it.
So it basically happened organically.
The hand movement for sure. The actual slogan was actually my co-founder.
Oh,
it wasn't myself.
Okay.
So he's the one that we're chatting one day, and we're talking about like Rease, and then he's saying Rease it, and then the name Rease originated from rent and lease together.
Oh.
So it was lease, we took the L off and added an R from the rent, and it's called Rease.
Because your brand and your company is pretty much renting and leasing.
Purely renting. So the two words, and it was Rease it, and just originated, rent it, lease it, Rease it.
Rease it. So, and tell me about the R, the big R, the design. How long did it take? How was the journey in developing such a unique niche company?
Yeah, that was the sort of struggle with the concept. In terms of the logo, and it's all sort of
straightforward. Yeah,
straightforward design. We didn't really take it too serious in terms of color. It was just like, at the end of the day, the brand, like Apple, it's literally just a shape.
That's right.
You remember the shape. Uber, I don't think that a reference to a brand is sometimes with color, with a slogan. I'm loving it, for example. Without supporting McDonald's.
That's right. Yeah. This is my example. Yeah.
Example, like, for example, there's some slogans, colors that attribute you to a certain brand. So we just wanted to create something behind it with a slogan. Obviously, the color was that light blue. Was that we want that warm, touchy feeling with the community. So the purpose behind Rease is obviously sharing within the community. So that was part of the sort of
the vision.
The vision, that it was.
So you found there was a need in the community to develop a company where you can rent it, lease it, and everyone in the community can just jump on and share off each other.
Yeah. In terms of the problem, originated from the construction site.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've had this many times throughout my life being a builder, where 99% of the builder would Say, I've had that issue. That's a problem. And creating a startup, there's sort of two attribute, whether it's a problem solving attribute or it's a convenience sort of thing. So Uber is based on convenience, Netflix is based on convenience, but there's some programs like a SaaS backend where there's a problem and there's a solution, and they're creating the solution. Unlike sort of where there is a problem and there's convenience. So they're the sort of, they call them the unicorn within the $1 billion valuation where we're trying to obviously achieve, hopefully. In saying that, many times, one instance, I was at a construction site where I was pouring about 200 or 250 cubes, half decent slab, and the concrete didn't go off. It was, I think, about 6, 7 p.m. The guys on the concrete's on the slab with the helicopters, trowels, everything's happening. 2, 3 helicopters. It wasn't drying. The guy goes, "Oh, can you get me a blower and heater? You know, this big commercial heaters."
Yeah.
I said, "Mate," looked at the time. I said, "Mate, you know what time it is?" I said, "Mate, it's Friday afternoon, I think 6, 7 p.m. I said, "Mate, where am I going to get you that from?" And that was like the sort of light bulb moment where he said, "There's a problem. There's a problem where you can't gain access to a item when you need it, but you don't want to buy it. So if I had to buy that item, it's going to probably cost me $3,000 per item.
That makes sense.
So it's thousands of dollars.
Wow.
To waste. So it was that light bulb moment where I looked at it and said, problem. And then me and my cousin, I don't know if I should mention that, like my cousin, but anyway. So
okay, I'll delete that.
So me and my co-founder, me and my co-founder at the time, we sat down, we spoke about it, we continued on with the idea, obviously having a problem. What is the solution? So we looked at many marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree, and they were more sort of surrounding the sales point of view.
That's right. No renting.
No renting.
No.
There's other rental companies where they do a niche sort of product, whether it's tools, dressers, trailers, caravans. But if I wanted a movie right now, me and you want to watch a movie right now, where are we going to go? We're on Netflix, Stan.
That's right.
It goes to your head. I want to go buy a phone, Apple, Samsung. It's the top T, the T1s that sort of stand out. And it was like, I want to rent. Where do I go? I want it now. I want it after hours. I want convenience. I want to go to a one-stop shop where I can see many categories and book. I want to take out a friend fishing. I want to rent a boat. I want to go, whatever it might be. It might be tools. It might be a caravan. It might be a trailer. Many things.
It's something that you're going to rent maybe a couple of times or use a couple of times, and then you have no purpose for it.
For sure. And that was the sort of things. I don't want to buy it. I don't want to waste my money.
Sure.
But I want to rent it. And at the same time, we thought, okay, you know what? This could be a two-sided marketplace where, what about if I've already fell into the trap of buying? I've already bought the product and I have all this stuff laying around the house. Or, for example, as a builder, you buy stuff, or as a plumber, you buy, for example, an excavator where you use it a few times a year. What do I do in the meantime? I'm still paying rego, insurance. I have to store the thing.
Makes sense.
Maintenance. So you got all these aspects that obviously come with cost. What do? Why don't you rent it out to people within your community and make money?
And not only make money, and you know this for sure, you're allowing your things which are stored and not being put to use to be benefited by those who need it.
Correct.
And rather than let it rust in the backyard or let it rust in the
Share
shed,
it within your community.
Share it within your community while making money.
Look, in theory, it's a I call it a genius idea. Like
it is.
But it's now converting that theory, that mindset into practical. So.
Well, since you've started, I've seen the organic growth of your social media, and for a man who wasn't ideally behind the camera to now being thrusted on the microphone, and now I know the roles are reversed. I'm interviewing you, but I knew you from when you were younger. Not obviously, there's 15 years where we've to see that growth in that young person who's now started up this startup, was a builder or is a builder, and then has this startup. Then on the microphone, out in different areas, interviewing a range of people. How was that?
Yeah, it was just thrown in the deep end, and I look back at the time, and I say to myself, like, if I didn't throw myself in the deep end, if I didn't do what I did, I probably would still be where I am, not trying, not giving it a go, and always say life is short. You're never going to know until you try something, and then you're going to realize at the end whether it worked or it didn't work.
You know, you just gave me goosebumps because a lot of the guests that I get on, even though the questions laid out quite differently, they all answer in the same way.
Yeah.
If you're not going to give it a go,
how you gonna know?
How you gonna know? And you know what? Right. That's the evolution of the Chronicles of Faith.
For sure.
Where I said I want to go back into the podcast game. I'm not going to wait for the perfect recording, for the perfect equipment, for the perfect setup, because there were ideas of having an extravagant setup in a farm container, which was backed by people.
Yep.
I said, let me look at what I can maintain, and I'm just going to start. One guy told me, you don't even know how to edit. I don't know how to edit. Yep. Editing software. I can use my phone, but to edit on the... And because there's a passion and a drive, what's the worst case? I'm going to learn.
Yep. And that's what it comes down to. You think people look at failure as something you fail. What it like word failure? What is it like? You got to come back to. And I always looked at it as I saw like people like Tesla, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. These are guys that on another level. But honest truth, they bleed the same blood. They got the same brain. And being in a startup, it's just problem solving. It's just getting your mindset to work out your problems. And failure, people work to their advantage. When there's a failure, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to simply do whatever I did. I'm just going to reverse it and do it totally different.
And learn from the failure.
And learn from it.
I feel like a lot of people struggle to cope with failure, and they struggle to learn how to lose, whether it's in sport, where they are sore losers, instead of actually...
I'm a bit of a sore loser.
Look, we're competitive. We don't like to lose. No. But then going back and learning how to lose, and the same thing with whatever you try.
Yep.
I know there's money at stake and there's different aspects at stake, but if you have a drive and a passion and you have a thought in your mind,
work it out.
You work it out.
100%. And even coming back to the question that you asked me in terms of how did you end up interviewing people?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time where if you look at back, some of them I've deleted, but if you go back to the original time that where we originally started and the videos, we've done so many things wrong.
Wow.
And it's not about the things that you've done wrong, because they don't no one talks to you about, you know what, the Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he was in the garage. They talk about his yacht now. They talk about his $300-400 million yacht, where he is. So the story of the past and the stuff that he did wrong are probably not even written in history. The only thing that are written in history is the positive stuff. And in saying that, where the stuff that go bad, who cares? Just give it a go and try. And even coming from a construction background where I had no tech knowledge, didn't know about an app, literally rang up, started ringing around, getting quotes for an app, building an app, having no knowledge. Look, if you ask me, could I do something different? I'll say 100%. I can do 1,000 things different, and I would do it different. I've had the opportunity. And it doesn't mean that, and I'm a very optimistic person, but I'm very, reality is reality.
You're realistic.
It might not work, but it will give me the tools, for example, in the future for something else to might work. So it's not just about, like, I know I'm referring all back to people, but like in terms of Elon Musk, he had PayPal before he done Tesla.
Yeah.
And that gave him the opportunity for him to make money. I might not become a unicorn sort of business within Rease, but it might give me the funds, the know-how, the connections, the network to obviously venture off and to create something different.
Well, we're hoping that Rease it, lease it, rent it, lease it goes all the way.
It will.
But you touched on a very important point, because you are also a realist. You are realistic in the fact that if for whatever reason you're pushing and it doesn't go to plan, that instead of saying, oh, I failed, what did I do? I wasted all that time. No, your optimism is allowing you to say, no, look at what I learned during the process and how can I apply it to something else?
And that's what it's about. And I think that I say that with obviously a pinch of salt. Well, I don't want to, but I have full faith in Rease, and I know it will make it. It's just a matter of time. But I say that in a way of, for example, for other people as well, where they're facing the same issue we're facing, where they were trying to raise money, whether they have product problems, sale problems, marketing problems, and they're looking at it as, I've sort of failed, or they were creating a unicorn business where they couldn't. Okay, you know what? I'm exiting at $10 million. It's not good enough. I was aiming that high, so it just shows to people that, you know what, aim high. Wherever you get in the scale, you continue.
You've touched on an important point, and I can attest to that. I can attest to that because I come from a teaching background and a sales background. So I used to be in the car game at its peak, when the car game was at its peak in my earlier 20s. And then I went into teaching, into my field. But then I decided just before COVID, I would like to do something on my own. Now, what did I enter? I entered into the dips game. Made a company called La Gazelle. Hummus, baba ganoush, dips. And we tried that. It was me, myself, and I. And if you talk about someone who was in the car game, then the teaching game, then went into the dips, it was foreign territory. Then after 6 months of pushing and trying, we were faced with hitting COVID, the peak of COVID. I went from going into 40 different companies, whether it's small businesses, restaurants, in 6 months by myself, 40 to 45. And then when COVID went hard, I had to make a decision. Am I going to wait because at the time, we didn't know what was going to happen. What do I continue to bleed? Or do I say, I learned a lot and let me have a break and see what else is in there for me? Anyway, long story short, I cut the business out. I stopped it. But I went back to the field, one of my fields that I specialize in. And the point that you raised, I can testify right now, is that what did I learn? And how much did I learn? And I can tell you that business made me as a person, yet one would say, you failed. But I didn't fail because it was the most defining moment of my life. Putting myself in the deep end, experiencing what it takes to do a startup. And then, okay, that's not the startup for me. Or we had excruciating circumstances. And I think you can relate to that.
For sure. And I think COVID was a time where a lot of people sort of realized who they are. I think it took whether they were making many million, multiple, whether they're making a lot of money or they were just sort of starting off, it sort of set them in stone who they are. And businesses, whether they were making money, reality hit them and sort of shook them in a way that, it's sort of different type of water. They've never been there, done that. So as well, like I said earlier, it comes down to what are you going to take from that? There's a lesson. You take the good and the bad. I don't even look at it as bad, but let's call it the bad. Leave the bad, and next thing.
Can you find that you can just delete the bad?
Look, let's come back to the sort of startup. Let's talk about Rease. Rease, there's sort of let's call it the point we started and where we're at. There's times that, and it's called a pivot point where people, you do something and you realize, okay, it's not the best thing. Let's pivot. Let's shift our way of thinking. And that's if you look at our marketing earlier on, we lost the sort of who our audience. So the company, the customer profile, we sort of lost, and the interview sort of confused people. Do Rease own the items? Who owns the items? Is there renters? Is there listers? Who are these people? Do people give the items to us? So it's just confusing. But then you can look at a business and look at a company, a sort of a customer profile, and you look at it and say, okay, this is my customer, this is the age, so forth and so forth. And then you realize from that, if I convert that into reality and I go for chase my customer, that's who my target audience is. So it's not like, we said, we failed and that's it. Marketing is not for us. And you know what? We only have 1,000 followers. And we said, okay, doesn't work for us. We're not gaining organic compounding, retaining customers the way a startup should. What do? We failed in that aspect. We just pivoted and continued on and tried to shift it. And we said, you know what? Let's hit the streets. Who's our customer? Everyday Australians. Where are everyday Australians?
In the streets.
In the streets.
That's right.
Exactly right. So we continue and we flipped it. We're like, you know what? Let's take control. Let's, instead of doing a sort of a random video, let's ask them questions. Let's ask them a serious question. And if you know a startup, you know product market fit. Product market fit is a thing that it's stages in your business. So one stage is a MVP. So they say build a minimal viable product. Mm-hmm. And from that, the least sort of amount of money. And then from that, you go on to creating an MVP. An MVP can be broken down into two things, into the product that you're creating, make it successful.
That's right.
Or a proven product. And then the second product market fit is the scalability of it. How can you scale it? So for us was, you know what? Let's go back to our product market fit. Let's write the questions that we had in our head. So the questions I asked, like for example, like how much you make a week, isn't just for the sake of it. It's for me to ask, your expenditures are so high, wouldn't you want to make extra money?
Wow.
Isn't your financial situation struggling currently in Australia? Isn't there a financial crisis in Australia? So we attributed that from sort of the product market fit questions. And if you go back to like, you have stuff laying around the house, these are the questions that my investors are going to ask. When someone invests in Rease, they're going to ask, do people have stuff at home they want to rent? Is this even, do people? And then when I see the videos and I can relate the videos back to my data, so my analytics compared to from my app to my website to whatever it may be, I can prove that there's people coming on the app organically. People are listing stuff organically. So nothing is just coincidentally. It's just not based on luck. It's not. There's a reasoning for it.
Of course, there's a reasoning for it, and I can tell in your creative journey, both in the business and on social media, that you were able to amalgamate all that data together and see
shift it over,
where it goes into reset.
Exactly right, and I think that the pivot point with any business, and it can be a small business or it can be a big startup idea. It's just literally about giving your best, trying something, pivot, trying something, pivot. And I'm sort of working in the journey alongside a few mentors, and I always ask the question, does Rease have legs? Does Rease have legs? And I want to know, I just want someone else to look at it from my view and say, yeah, it works. And he said to me that, stop asking, does it have legs and does it work? And he goes, everything works. Wow. Everything works. He goes, he said, I wouldn't say what he said, but he said something like...
The meaning of what he said, can you say?
The meaning is you can sell whatever you want to the right person.
That's right.
In other words.
Okay. yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so...
Everything sells.
Everything sells.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter about finding your product, getting your customer audience who know who they are, identify who they are, and off you go. Whether it's a burger, you're selling a burger. Who wants to eat a burger? McDonald's. Why did they create a fast food? There's a certain market, fast food, quick, convenient. What they sell, burgers. Do you want fries with that? Do you want a drink? So it's just about adding on and using that brain beyond.
Well, it's funny that you thinking outside of the box. That's a great point. It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I reflect on my time in the car game, you can sell cars up to $10,000, and then you have a market for that. Then we went to increase our car value up to $20,000. Then all of a sudden, the owner at the time had cars up to 30, 40. Then he became that successful. He capped it at 50 to 60. But then he had a range of cars from 10, which was his bread and butter originally, to $50,000 cars. But then there was the people who would come buy the $40,000 to $50,000 cars weren't the same people that would come and buy in the $10,000 cars. So the way you'd advertise to them compared to them, the deals you'd have, it's almost, you can apply this to any business.
And you come to think of it like Apple. Why doesn't Apple sell cheap phones, sell a $50? It's not their market. They know they've left that to another market. Whether they can do it or they can't do it, there's a reasoning for it. And sometimes whether you do it, like for us as a whole marketplace, that's a way, or sometimes you just got to niche it up in a way that, okay, I can sort of deliver this product to these certain people at 100% guarantee rate, and that's how it is. It's customers that are going to be happy with good customer service, and you got to make it work.
Well, is there any? Right now, I'm going to download Rease.
Yeah. You have to. You should have done that before.
I know I should have done that before, but you know what? I wanted the whole idea of when you ask the person, "Do you have it?"
Yeah,
and then I say no. Nah. But let's say I've downloaded Rease, and I will right after this pod. And then I have, for example, my recovery boots. You know, Normatec. Have you heard of them? Yeah. I have them.
Yep.
But silly me went and bought the whole shebang, the arms, the hips, the legs. And I barely use the arms, for instance. Or even the whole package. If I upload that, instead of them going to a company and driving to rent it, or let's say to a wellness center, they can hire them?
Yeah.
How does it work?
So the step is very simple. So it's available on both Apple and Android. So you go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and download the app. It's for free. So literally make an account. So we use a system called Stripe. Probably people know it as a payment system. And the payment system is where the transactions happen. So it's an individual party, Stripe, that sort of facilitates the transaction. So bookings, bonds go through the app. And for renters, they just need to verify themselves through a platform called Green ID.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so Green
So it's
ID.
all secure.
So it's safe and secure. That's the main thing as well. We came across a problem where people said, like yourself, you probably spent thousands of dollars on there, and you don't want to sort of, it's your prized possession. You don't know. You spend a lot of money. Who's this guy come and take it? So what we do with a verification system where we verify every renter that comes on the app. And on the other hand, we created a bond system, a sort of a bond where, let's say, for example, you can put X amount of money, $200 as a bond, where you know that, okay, anything happens, a cord gets broken or damage, I can recover, I can fix the product with that bond. Like people put for cars, they put their bond, for example.
When you rent a car,
or
when you rent a hotel,
they put the excess fee. Sorry,
the excess fee.
The excess, not
but
bond.
Wouldn't you a bond when you rent a hotel where they secure like a $500 bond in case of damages?
Yep. Correct.
Yeah,
same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So people usually do it in different ways.
That's right.
For example, like cars.
Yeah.
The excess fee. So
the
people,
excess. Yeah.
So
It's
we've tried to make it in a way where, because it's a peer-to-peer marketplace, and Rease is the middle. So we're just trying to have a friendly community where people can share their products, rent them off each other, and safe and secure. That's the main objective.
Well, I've just downloaded Rent It, Rease It, Lease It. I don't know if the camera can see. It's very bright over here, and it's very user friendly. Like, I'm sure you spent a lot of time developing this app where it's just so easy to use. Like, get started, very simple, version 1.3.7. I had to add that one in. And as soon as I went and got, oh wow, Lamborghini.
There's everything. There's everything.
Allow my location while using the app, yes. Scaffolding, Hilux per day.
Yep.
JBL party box, so if I want to do karaoke.
Exactly right.
A bike.
Yep.
And obviously there's quality, so I can rent probably... That's what you had today, the White Castle balloon. I was checking your social media before you came. So if I want to do a party for my daughter, I'll just hire that for a day.
Yep.
And does he drop it off or she drop it off?
So we've made a message feature where you communicate with the lister. And you organise, obviously, pick up, delivery. And for example, just asking general questions. So you might want to ask, for example, does it fit in this kind of space? What's the height? Any question that he hasn't put as his description. So it works very similar to car sales, Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace, where you sort of you speak to the person. Sort of very similar to Facebook Marketplace, where it's
but I know I'm not blowing a gasket here because you're sitting in front of me and you're the man behind Rease It, Lease It, Rent It, Rease It, Lease It. But it's actually 10 times better, if not more. It's like Facebook Marketplace on steroids.
Yeah, for the rental world.
Yeah.
But look, not a lot of people know that, but Facebook deletes all rentals. So you're not allowed to actually put rental items on.
Wow.
Yeah, because you got to think of it like the user, the problem behind rentals is does the guy return the item back?
That's
problems, payment systems. People don't want to give someone something and they don't know if the item's going to get returned. With security and a safe sort of platform, you know, all the incidents that happen on Facebook where it's stolen iPhone.
Yes.
So we're trying to create a safe environment. That's our sort of our main objective.
And since you're on the road and talking to people, and those who are watching this podcast will go and, of course, search you to see who you are, and they'll see that you have the microphone, you're out there interviewing people. Have you gotten feedback from those randomly that have used your app?
Yeah, we've sometimes, we don't, obviously, we have a lot of videos in the background that we do that we haven't posted, but people come up to us, oh, I know you. Like today, for example, literally today it happened, I was at Bunnings, and someone comes up to me and goes, I've rented something off Rease. And the viewers going to ask me, why are you at Bunnings? Stop buying. But I was just there for a roller for painting. So it was just something that, you know what, when you go out there and you see people realising who you are, they've used your app or they've downloaded your app, it's refreshing to know that if you can, and they say this in the startup world, when you do a MVP, test it with your family and friends. Go to your friends. What do you reckon of this idea? Continue that on to your family, your friends. Your friends go out to the public community and keep growing that. And we're at a stage now that we're sharing it with the whole Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's available all over Australia, but we're focusing on Sydney.
Sydney.
So,
But what do you do in Melbourne if they want to use it?
so if the product's available, they can, but we're not marketing. So if
Okay.
you look at we're not marketing Melbourne, or it's just we're growing organically.
And how do you find going to random areas? Like, do you find the population group in this area compared to that area changes?
Yeah.
Cultures, ethnicities, people?
Answers are completely different, and we realize, and that's the thing. What we're doing is collect data as well. So everything we're doing is recorded.
Data-driven.
Correct. Without data and without knowing who your customer audience and knowing who people are, and we know not every area are our audience. So not every area, like let's for example the rich. I'm not going to go and
Vaucluse?
yeah, the Point Piper, the Vaucluse, the Dover Heights. They're not the sort of, they're not going to go rent, let's say, a car. Or maybe, they might rent a jewel, they might rent something else, but we sort of broken down into age brackets, areas, categories. We know who the Western Sydney are going to rent tools, and it's proven within our data that their trailers and stuff and enjoyment jet skis and stuff like that, they love to rent this kind of stuff.
Like just the jet ski, for example, summer's coming up around the corner. Instead of having myself to go buy a jet ski, which I know I'll use for a month, 2 months, albeit February it's out, in winter till spring it's just sitting there. I'll just go on Rease and rent a jet ski.
Correct, and there's a bit of talk around sort of jet skis because it's obviously governed at the moment. But there's guys on there that have commercial license that can allow you to rent boats and jet skis. So it's literally a marketplace. Whatever you can think of,
You have it.
we want people to come and list them and rent them off each other.
So if I want to add 2 more cameras for one special podcast with 6 people, for example,
Exactly right.
I'll jump on Rease.
Yep.
I can rent a mic boom. I can rent the monophone. I've already seen the monophone
Yep.
tripod, the exact one that I have.
Yep.
I've seen it.
Yep.
And I can rent the cameras, use it because I only need it for that pond.
Exactly right.
And then either I drop it off or he picks it up.
Yeah. It's like these microphones, these stands, these cameras. Like, it's not like you do podcasts every day. And someone might be down the road that might be doing a podcast similar to yours that might need something, and it's just that thing. And it's happened with me on job sites, so I can relate obviously back to job sites.
Yeah,
that's
how it started.
That's where my origin is, and I've been needing an excavator, for example, and looking down the road and I can see one. I say, and why can't I use the guys? Why can't I just give him money at a better rate, because he does have the overheads as all the other companies, and give back to him, like pay him for it, use it, and return it back. It's the easy process.
And is it difficult to manage the cash flow, or without getting into your business, but because it's, I don't want to say complex, but you have an end user, you have the renter, the lease. It's a two-sided. Then you have yourself as well.
It's sort of, you can think of a scale.
Yeah.
It's two-sided, and that's why not sort of blowing my own horn, but marketplaces, a two-sided marketplace is the hardest startup to create.
That's what I mean.
It's very hard. So it's not like I have a product and I'm selling it.
That's right.
And I'm trying to create a software, a SaaS backend that I'm saying to everyone, go use it. On the one hand, I've got listers.
That's right.
And one hand, I've got renters. I need to bring them to the same table at the same sort of time. Listers have a good experience. The renter have a good experience. At the same time, my product is my app. That's right. It's like my little baby that I have to take care of. I have to nurture, and I have to make sure there's no bugs. And that's one of the earlier on when, it's a funny story, when I created the app and me and my co-founder, we had bugs and we're like each other,
What's a bug?
What's a bug? I said, mate, I didn't know apps can have bugs. I thought you just build an app and off you go.
That's a classic line.
And I just like, me and him looked at each other and we're like, oh shit, here, what are we in for now? So it was a sort of long journey where we're here where we're here now, and we've come a very, very long way and it's only been 11, 12 months. So
is that all?
Yeah, it hasn't been. People think that, how long you been out? It hasn't been that long. So
you're mashallah, you're quite positive and optimistic, and since you were young, you had just a laid back smile on your face, and that still epitomizes who you are at the moment. But I'm sure in those 12 months you've had some lows.
If I wasn't here today, I'll be in the office. I'll get constantly. There's time, effort. There's and people around me. My stomach grumbling.
You probably haven't eaten today.
Haven't. Yeah, I'm like, and I've got another video after this.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like, it's constantly like work, and you got to work when people are sort of resting, and that's like your biggest thing where you're not your 7 to 3, not your 9 to 5, because
you've just, sorry to cut you off, you've just given me goosebumps. Repeat that line again.
So you got to be working when people are resting, when people are at home enjoying, not saying enjoying their family, because everyone has to have that sort of balance between that. But when people are sort of relaxed, and you see the hard workers, and there's a few mentors I look up to and I talk to often, that they say in their youth they lost a lot of time doing something. And look, at the end of the day, we obviously, I believe in the afterlife. I'm not going to sacrifice everything for.
Of course, we have our priorities.
Correct.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if there's something I can leave a legacy behind, leave status, and not talking no pride or nothing, just leave something behind where it's people are going to remember. You've left something good in this world,
and just your family as well, and your kids when they, and I'd say your family in a nutshell, whether you have kids or not. I haven't even asked you that question, but for you to do an idea where it started from just an idea, you've executed the idea. It may feel like it's been 5 years, but it's only been 12 months, and I can already tell that your vision, you've got a vision where it's much further than where you are at the moment. Sure. Your goal, the end game. Inshallah, when it's successful, in saying that success is measured differently to each person, sure. But when you achieve your desired goal, your family, your father, your mother, your siblings will go back and say, Abdul achieved what he set out to do.
Correct, and that's what it comes down to. People when they, let's say, you're playing soccer, you're trying to become professional. People are like, you're not gonna make it, mate. Relax. You know what I mean? Oh, what do you mean, a movie star? You want to go Hollywood? People, and sometimes people don't know what they're saying, and they just as a joke.
That's right. It comes off as a joke, eh?
For sure, and it starts off as a joke, but obviously behind every joke there's something. There's the relax. Just, you know what I mean? You don't. Who are you? You're Elon Musk. You're gonna go create a startup. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it should be a motivation as well to, at the end of the day, whoever's out there thinking, what a fool this guy is, what is he trying to do, just go back to your building or just go back to whatever you're doing. For a slightest bit, let's say 80% doesn't work, that 20% it worked. If it worked, and whatever the valuation of this business might be, and you can see from 90% of the startups, 99% of the startups, you accumulate a lot of wealth. What's your question after that? What are you going to say about the person? You're going to look back at him and say, you know what I mean? This guy, I don't know how he made his money. I don't know what he's done in life. You know what I mean? And people look at people these days and look at them on TV and they're successful and they're driving cars and whatever they're doing. And, he's not a hard worker. What do you do? And
they think it happened overnight.
Correct. And it's the people obviously around you at the time will understand that, okay, you sacrificed so many years for this and look, now the fruits and the stuff are coming out at the end. But on the other hand, when people haven't seen it, they're just going to judge. And
well, that's where they're called naysayers.
Yeah,
and
you've got that two sort of sides.
On both ends of the spectrum. And I'm sure when you started this, you've actually prioritized and you were tunnel vision focused on what you wanted to do, regardless of the noise around you.
And I think it has to be like that. And I think that whatever you do, I'm now based in a startup, but any business, I'm talking generally, whatever business you do, people are going to always kind of come to you. Create a coffee shop. Wow, there's so many coffee shops and there's so many this and there's so many that. There's always going to sit that person that's going to, that negative. And I just think that just block your ears, mate. Just keep going.
Cool. The comment that you made about working when everyone's asleep.
Yeah.
Recently, I decided, and it coincided with the launch of the podcast, where I was out of shape, and it was the longest time I was out of shape for. And I tried to train at 5:30 in the morning. You know, people may think that I've just woken up and said, yeah, I'm training today at 5:30. If you know the reality of that, I know it's just training.
Yeah, but it's...
Do you know how difficult it was?
Yeah.
I actually woke up at 5:30 for 2 weeks. I would just wake up, pray, but I'd go back to sleep. I didn't just wake up at 5:30 and go to the gym and flick my fingers. Exactly. Habits take 2 weeks, they say, to develop. And my point is just like your business, where you didn't just wake up and say, I'm doing this idea.
Yep.
It took sacrifice. It took not spending time with family,
exactly.
Not going out. It took hard work, discipline, never giving up. And then when you reach success, this is success.
Exactly right.
But everything before that
is huge.
It's huge.
That's what you talk to, like where I'm talking at at a time in my life where it's earlier on, and I can know because I've met a lot of successful people. I've sat down on the table. I've been to the Formula One before with literally Australian billionaires.
Wow.
And the way they live, obviously whether it's right or wrong, it's what you look at it and you look at it and say like, it's the whole journey of their life, 14, 15 years of hard work. It's just like that bit of enjoyment, and you look at it and say, and that's why I look at it back and say, I don't look at that. I don't look at it at that end value, that the money sort of thing. I just leave. What have I left behind?
That's right.
That's what for me, money comes and goes. Whether I think there was a story today where I think a billionaire in a yacht in Italy, his yacht sunk worth 11 billion.
Whoa!
So he's leaving that 11 billion and he's departing.
That's right.
So I don't look at it as that sort of end value, but I look what I left or what I learned, the journey, and one thing. And I've been speaking to people in the community. How do we give back with the knowledge that I have to give back to other people, and so that they don't go through the same problems that I went through creating this startup. So I think just that positive mindset, giving back, and it's just
and you know your values of when you were young, which is when I knew you mostly in your teens, it carry on till this very day because you're always generous in helping, in being there for those around you. We played soccer for a number of seasons together.
Yeah, a few years.
On an amateur level.
Yep.
We didn't make it professional, but we were undefeated.
Yep.
And we always supported each other back then.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, rent it, lease it, rease it.
You have to rease it. It's a future. It's a future of the renting world.
And I commend you on all your hard work. I wish you all the very best. And Abdul, I'd like you to leave us with one advice, because you're full of wisdom today and advice.
I only have my little knowledge.
Mate, you've given a lot of knowledge on this podcast, especially to those who want to do startups, who have these ideas, but are just facing resistance. What's one piece of advice from all the mentors, or one of the mentors, because I can tell that you've sat around smart people before developing this app, and you've acquired all the advice that you needed. But what's one piece of advice you can share with our listeners?
Look, I'll leave you with a few things, because it's going to be hard to sort of sum it up into one. But one main thing that I learned, that it's just such a small word, but sort of continue. And I look at it as there's going to be your ups and downs. You're going to come to a time where you lose money, or you run out of money, or you don't know what to do, and you feel like, do I continue? Do I not? And be realistic with yourself. I'm not saying do stuff blindsided.
That's right.
Do your data, showcase, go to sit down with people, and don't be afraid. One thing, like I know there's more than one word, but don't be afraid to go and reach out. There's people that you think that I've had phone conversation with, like the owner of Airtasker, for example. We've literally, couldn't know how we just got his number. Stuff fall on your plate for certain reasons, and stuff happened for certain reasons. But what I say is keep going, and ultimately you will get there. I can guarantee you, and anybody that knows me or that doesn't know me can reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to sit down with them, talk about my sort of few-year journey when the idea first started to where I'm at today. And I'd love to share, and I'd love to help, give back in little knowledge that I have. And I say little because I haven't. I'm not at the end yet.
Yeah.
I'm still on my journey. But whatever I can give back, I'm happy. But for someone that's starting a journey or continuing or sort of at where I'm at, keep going.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Continuing.
Keep pushing.
Abdul, from the Chronicles of Faith to, again, Rease, rent it, lease it, rease it. I thank you for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having us. And one person that you don't see, that no one has seen, is the co-founder. There's another person like myself working, and I have to, obviously, people look at me and say, oh, Abdul, but it's not just Abdul. And I think that behind the camera, the one that edits, the one that does a lot of the work, is obviously my co-founder, and he works alongside me to create this. So
is he anonymous?
Yeah, not just anonymous, but it's we done it in the way of one person sort
in the
of
office
is the face, and one person is the back. Because later on, when you get investors, it can't be two people. One has to step down. One has to be ultimately the face and the person that talks, and the one that is the back end. So obviously, it's a mutual. agreement, and I have full trust in him. He has full trust in me. But I just want to let everyone know as well, I'm not just the pretty face.
Well, you've definitely delighted us with your pretty face today. Until next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And one more time, rent it, lease it, rease it.